Perfect. Sounds good. Well, we appreciate those who jumped on. We're in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and that we lost signal here. But we're going to continue where we left off. And we're not quite sure where we lost signal, but I had asked a question. You know, there was a point where you learned English, but there was a point where your research and your writing transitioned over to English. And your response was kind of at the university time,
Yes.
right? So bring us back there.
So one thing is that to write even my theses, I needed support in research papers. And most of them are published in English just to make it available internationally. So automatically, reading scientific papers, I was catching some words that I didn't understand. So at first, of course, translating them using dictionary. And then, for example, I read another paper on similar topic, the same word popped in there, so it was more familiar, it rang the bell. So the more I read, the more I understood just by reading.
Yeah.
And then when I started publishing papers during my PhD, that was the time where I switched to English in writing, using all the vocabulary that I learned earlier from reading the papers.
How many papers have you written? Let's say, have you written in English?
16 scientific papers that are published in high point journals.
What do you believe that, and maybe this is maybe a redundant question, but how did your creative mind, right? Maybe a right-brained and left-brained mind, how did that serve you well in your research and your studies?
Oh, I'm a typical visual person.
Okay.
So when I run the research, and if you open my notebook, because I'm still a little bit old-fashioned, and I like to have some of the data collected manually and, paper notebook. If you would open my notebook, all the tables have colors. When you go to the greenhouse where I have my research, you will notice that every single pot has different colors or mixes of colors. That's how I deal with different treatments that I apply, and it makes it much easier for me to follow all of them from the very beginning, from the greenhouse stage, through taking the samples to my notebook. So everything, including vials that I collect samples in, have the same color coding.
So the color coding?
Yes, so I go to the greenhouse and my mind remembers that, for example, red and yellow is this combination of two different factors, and I don't have to look at the label that has it written on it. My brain catches the pot with this treatment, and I know exactly what it is.
Is that something? So the visual,
yes,
the color.
Yes, and also, that creativity and some manual skills also translate to solving some more engineering problems that we're facing when trying to start a research. So that is really helpful too.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are joining, maybe you're just catching part 2. We are speaking with Mags. What is your full given name, right?
Sorry, fly. My full name is Magdalena Pances, and that's how you can find me on my research papers. That's also how you can find me in this course from movies, the final ones. But that's a pretty long name that was causing troubles when I moved to the US. Till now, no one can pronounce my last name the correct way, so I got used to that. But my full name was also kind of long, so at first at the university, they started shortening it to Magda, which is just a shortcut in Polish from name Magdalena. And then it's just started getting shorter and shorter to Mag, then Mag, and then Mags, and that's how it stayed.
That's how it stayed. Oh, I want to let's go to that creative piece for a while. And then what I want to do is I want to take kind of I'm going to go back and talk about your trip to the United States from Poland. But you find yourself here in the States, right? And so how many years have you been here?
Almost 6.5. I moved to the US end of 2017.
Yeah, and you've immersed yourself, at least in the last few years or I should say the last year or so that we've known. You've really jumped into the creative space.
Yes.
Like dove right in, right?
Yeah, that was unexpected. Everything went really fast. As soon as I decided to show up myself out there, everything was the snowball rolling.
Yeah. So you went from kind of jumping in. Now, you had mentioned some film did you mention film credits yet, or am I imagining that? But you've worked on many films.
Yes, mainly shorts.
Okay.
I think 6 or 7 total so far, and it's just for the past year, really, because I started that path shortly after the makeup classes
we had that FX class, and at that point, Dalen was there, Scott was there.
Yeah,
we had a whole bunch of folks.
Jenna.
Jenna was there. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That was amazing team, and Brandon behind the camera.
Mm-hmm. It was great to gather, but how long was it from the time you took the class to the time that you found yourself on set?
Probably it was I got a phone call from Scott probably in a week after, and then mid-July I was on the first movie set with him, where I met with Dalen again. So yeah, that was pretty quick.
Yeah. So in terms of effects, you moved from FX, but you're also acting in these films. How is doing one or the other? Do you have a preference, or?
Right now, not really. I'm slowly getting used to being in the front of the camera as well. At the very beginning, it was mainly playing Dad. And Scott, so completely covered and soaked in blood. So these were the first scenes, and then slowly he trusted me more and more with his scripts, giving me more time in the front of the camera with Give Up the Ghost, where I was through entire movie together with Gappy.
Thank you, Scott Brosius, White Midnight Films, because they were like, let's bring you in. And I think that, let me give you my observation. My observation was, so we were there for the class, and I don't know, it was obvious that you had artistic ability, because every medium that we kind of threw at you, you're like fine tuning. Even, I think the very first thing we did was a more simple technique, but it was the Tinsley transfer, and you're just nailed it. You really feathered out the edges. And I'm like, this is somebody, and
it was the first time when I really had it in my hand and remember that I decided to go the hard way and apply it on myself.
Oh, that's right.
I was just sitting in the front of the mirror trying to figure out how to smooth these edges, and I was stubborn enough to sit long enough until I was satisfied.
But Scott was there too, so maybe Scott recognized the same genius that I recognize, and that is that you have that natural creative skill. But not only FX, but I know, because I watch your work and I've seen the work here in person, is you paint.
I do.
Tell us the other things the other creative things that you maybe are expert in or dabble in.
On the top of music and painting and everything related with, let's say, film industry, because I worked also as a script supervisor and some other help. So I'm usually multitasking when I'm on the sets, and I like it. That's how I function at the university. So crazy pace environment, changing conditions, and just picking up where we left and trying to not get lost in everything.
There's probably something to learn there about multifaceted, right? In research and in art. I think that is, what's your observation on being multifaceted? So in other words, you step on film and you're like, okay, I'll help with FX. I can help the script supervisor. I mean, I can do many of these things, which makes you a really valuable teammate.
Yeah, but this is how I was since I remember. This is probably how my brain is wired, and that's where I really feel the best, when I am challenged at many different levels. That's what really keeps me going.
Yeah.
I cannot get stagnant, because that's the killer for my motivation. So I'd rather have a crazy day and running from one project to another and switching between science and art, rather than having a day off and trying to figure out what to do with my free time.
Yeah. The one piece that is something that I don't know the long story, and that is somehow you're in Poland. You complete your PhD.
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
I completed my studies,
Okay.
but I moved to the US still before my defense.
Oh, okay. To connect us, so take us back to Poland to US. Like, how did that happen? Because I understand it was a bit of a stressful.
Yeah. So short story.
Yeah. Just a short story first.
Yeah, short story first, and then we will go into more details. So short story, I was 2017, I think August. I was at the conference here in the US in Portland, Oregon, where I was just offered a job. I said yes, and 3 months later, I moved to the US. But that short story definitely doesn't tell much about what a hell of a ride it was to really get here. And to stay here is another story. But what would you say if I would tell you that we're having this interview right now, hiking interview?
Yeah.
Because 23 years ago, I had a knee injury. How ridiculous does it sound? But think for a moment. Have you ever had this aha moment when you suddenly zoom out, you see your own life from a little bit different perspective, and suddenly you see all these dots connecting and leading you to where you are now?
And that is so. Take us there. So knee injury. Like,
yes, you can still see. Oh, of course.
Oh yeah,
mud. We went to mud. We're not
faking.
faking. We're hiking. You can still see. Currently, I'm after 4 surgeries. Still a few more to go.
Knee surgery. Right
yes.
knee.
Yes. So the thing was that I had like minor injury when I was 13.
Okay.
Wrong diagnosis, and a few years later, I had 3 surgeries, 3 years in a row. So my second year of high school, my senior year, and then first year of my studies.
Okay.
The thing is that it happened so early at the university that I didn't even had a chance to have my first semester exams. So, and my recovery was pretty long and hard. So it made no sense for me to continue. So I had to have a gap year.
Okay.
And that is crucial, because if I wouldn't have that gap year, I wouldn't start my PhD. Because if I would want to start a year earlier, there was no one at my division of ornamental plants who could have taken me as a PhD student. And I didn't want to, well, as I said before, I didn't even consider doing PhD.
Yeah.
And definitely I didn't feel like having it done in vegetable production or orchard production. So 1 year gap. I had
knee injury, 1 year gap, and that's what.
And that's why I started my PhD studies. Okay, moving forward.
Okay.
First year of my studies, PhD studies. I was working on a pretty new material as a substitute or partial replacement for standard media. So there was really not much research papers, not too many research papers on this kind of material in horticulture as a growing medium. But I found a few. I just haven't had full versions. So I decided to write to the main author saying, I just started my PhD studies. This is the title of my research, and I would be grateful if you could send me full versions of this paper.
Yeah.
Not only I got this paper, I got like two more. And I remember that at the end of the email there was a note, please keep me posted because I'm really interested in what you're doing. I completely forgot about that. Then, year 3. My advisor asked me to check something on the website of American Society for Horticultural Sciences. So I'm there, I checked whatever he wanted, but I see a bar on the left saying calendar of events. I'm just like, okay, let's see what's going on there. And suddenly, as I'm going through, entire list of conferences, my eyes stopped. Woody ornamentals of temperate zone. And my brain started clicking. Results from my master thesis fit in that conference scope. What I'm doing for my PhD fits there, and I already have some results. I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to be there. So my first conference, 2016, Minneapolis. That was my first conference when I came to the US, and that was my first time in the US at all. And suddenly, coffee break, some guy is staring at me. I'm looking at him. And, we all had ID.
Your IDs, yeah.
And I'm just like, I know that name. And he's just like, Magda? James? It happened that I met the person that I emailed on my first year.
Is that something?
About research.
At your first conference?
Yes, my first conference in the US. So we talked a little bit more about my progress with my studies. We decided to stay in touch. We were sending samples back and forth because we decided to run some small trial together. Then I got another email saying, Magda, listen, there's another conference. It will be worth for you to come over. It was more related to growing media. So again, everything what I did so far fits perfectly. I have a bunch of data that I can show. So 2017, conference in Portland. Last day, I was offered a job. But that doesn't really end the story because, I'm Polish. So I needed a visa, but university took care of that.
Yeah.
On my side, I had to go to consulate or embassy to get, the visa in my passport. So finally, I'm ready. They sent me itinerary for my ticket. I'm at the airport. 2 suitcases, my life packed in 2 suitcases, my passport, my documents that university sent me, telling that I'm coming over here for internship because my first contract was for 9 months.
Okay.
And suddenly I'm told that I'm not a passenger on the plane.
So you go up and you have all your life belongings in 2 suitcases. You're on your way here and you're like, sorry, your ticket is...
Yeah, no one
right?
ever clicked the final button to confirm your ticket. And another tricky thing was that the documents that I was given by the university have certain time limit when I can enter the US. So I'm sitting there and I'm just wondering, is the universe trying to test me how persistent I am to really follow my dream? Or is it trying to tell me to not go there? And I knew that if I don't get on that plane, that means that I will have to ask university for another set of papers, another waiting, and all delays. So within a moment, again, gut feeling. I just followed my gut feeling. I bought ticket to Chicago, and I decided I will take it from there. Especially that it was, 7 in the morning in Poland. It's 1 a.m. over here. Even if I would try to contact anyone, everyone's sleeping. So I took a leap of faith. I followed my gut feeling, and finally I made it to the US. And when my boss picked me up from the airport, he was just like, you know what? Once you told me about all the problems with the plane tickets, I thought that you're not gonna come over here.
So you go from Poland to Chicago to, is it Cleveland Airport? Because you've been here in the Northeast Ohio for six and a half years.
Almost 6.5 years. Well, I had a ticket from Chicago to Akron Canton Airport because that was fastest connection for me.
Yeah,
really.
So that wasn't an easy trip here.
No, it wasn't. But at the same time, you know, when you really want to follow your dream, you have to be prepared for that. Yeah. And you have to make a conscious choice. Or I can become the victim of the circumstances, or I become creator of my reality. And that mentality is really what kept me going. Because let's be honest, moving to a foreign country completely on my own, just knowing that I have a job, wasn't an easy task. I came here as a blank page. I had to start all over again. Everything.
Yeah.
Building my support system, learning the city, learning the differences in social interactions, everyday life, and things like that. So that was challenging.
What are some of the, and this is, I'm going to come back there, but there's cultural differences, right? And so,
maybe not, like, it wasn't a huge cultural shock. Like, for example, people from Asia coming over here. So you know, European and Americans are functioning on similar vibes, let's say. It was more like a bunch of tiny differences, you know, these tiny puzzles that changed the picture a little bit. So it wasn't like that obvious for me. It was more a lot of small nuances here and there. Yeah.
You find yourself here. Is it, are you wanting to share where you've been doing research, or is that something you'd prefer to keep between your friends? Like you've been 6.5 years, been working on research, right?
Yep.
And what we learned from part one is that that there might be an end to your time here in Northeast Ohio.
Yes. The thing is that like first 5 years I was under internship visa, and 5 years is the max that that anyone can really spend time in the US as a foreigner.
Yeah.
Another thing was that, you know, my first contract was for 9 months, and it depended on external funding. So every year it was renewed. But the thing was that I never knew if it's gonna get renewed or not. So I could plan my life only 12 months ahead when I was signing a fresh contract. That was, you know, another heavy mental load, not knowing what will happen with me. And I guess that after these 5 years, I kind of got used to that. Luckily, right now, I have a green card, which I obtained due to my education, just by proving that I'm a good specialist and I'm worth to keep in the US.
Yeah.
But again, it's the funding that is short right now, and so far, from the way it looks, no chance to extend that to stay at the Ohio State University.
Gotcha.
So again, I'm just trusting the universe that maybe even if I don't see it right now, that point in my life is another turning point. That's another dot that I will connect with the other dots a little bit later.
Yeah. Let's finish out our you know, this last portion here. Let's go, like, you know, press the gas and go to the creative side, because you do a lot. And I want to even, when we were talking before, Craig is behind the camera, and Craig was our guest last week, and he was talking about writing. And you had mentioned, you know, because you had written some poetry, lyrics, and so has Craig, that there was a phrase.
Yes.
Back in Poland. Share that with us, because
Yeah.
that's really interesting to me.
So the phrase is describing a writer who writes in the way that when you read it, there's just a flow. And that saying is that someone has a light feather. And where it comes from is, from the probably medieval times, when to write something in the books, you were using feather, bird feather, mainly goose feather, that cut the tip of it.
Yeah.
So because it's empty inside, you put it in the ink, it sucks up the ink, and then you write.
Yeah.
But when someone had a heavy hand and put a lot of pressure, all you could see on the paper was a big blob. And when someone had a light feather, light pressure when writing, then the writing was nice and clear. So later it's just evolved and is used to describe someone who can write in a very pleasant way, easy to read.
So if you are striving, or maybe let's say if you have some of that Polish, was that a Polish light feather? Was that Polish?
That's direct translation from Polish. I'm not sure if it idiom like that exists
here
in English, because I noticed that there are many linguistic differences, and sometimes when I try to translate directly English, it really doesn't exactly mean what I think it does.
Yeah.
So there are some tricky things related to direct translation. So definitely there's highly recommended to be careful.
Yeah, so we were at the very end of Craig's interview last week. He read a piece, and I would say that based upon that phrase, that Craig was writing with a light feather. So we're kind of gearing up towards the last handful of minutes, and then we're going to be at the SUV. In our vehicle, there is some artwork.
Yes, there are a few different pieces.
Yeah.
So there are 3 paintings that consist really like one piece. Then epoxy feather, which is also a painting just done with epoxy resin that I did during epoxy classes with Brandon.
Okay.
And I have also different crochet projects, which is like another thing that I got back to after many years of not doing anything with that. I learned crochet from my grandmother probably when I was around 9 years old. Like the basics.
Yeah.
Then I played a little bit with that, then got bored, kids.
Yeah.
But lately, I just felt a need to refresh it. When I felt that I need to do something creative, but like pure creativity of starting with the blank canvas was a little bit too hard on my brain, because I was overwhelmed with so many things in my private life, at work, and so on. So I needed that creativity, but at a little bit different level, like less demanding maybe.
Okay.
And crochet is really repeating some certain designs. So it was that mundane thing that really helped me to refresh that artistic part, and also helped me shut down a little bit of that, all these crazy thoughts that I had.
Yeah. That process, right? Is that
just that repetitive movement that just was soothing to me.
Did your grandmother pass that on? Did she say, that busy hands, or was there anything that she taught you? I'm talking about the idea of keeping your hands moving. Or was that something you picked up on your own?
Yeah, I think that's, related with generation of like my grandparents were, housewives, were meeting up to like make quilts or crochet or knit or, prepare some food in jars for storing through the winter. So in yeah, I think it's just that one thing is to be with, you know, your tribe and just talk over this kind of job, but also that manual movement that involves both hands creates completely different connections in your brain.
Yeah.
Because you're involving both sides of your brain at the same time. So it has definitely that therapeutic effect on your mental.
So do you find
Right.
that as you kind of work on that crochet that that you start to focus? I mean,
Yeah, like getting more clarity, being
Okay.
able to balance my thoughts a little bit better, and yeah, that helped me to unlock after a long time of not doing much with art, because during my like entire studies I was really so busy with research and writing my theses and stuff like that. And when I really agree on doing something, I just give 100%.
Yeah.
So for many years.
Craig, I might ask you to step ahead of us because I think we're going to be single file here in a bit. And Mags, maybe I'll have you step in front of me because we're kind of finishing out this, you know, this little trek. The crocheting, the creativity, your painting, your effects. Do you find a ritual? In other words, I start off by crocheting, that kind of gets me warmed up, and then I move to painting. Or are you?
I really have no schedule. I really pick up the art that speaks to me at the moment. Sometimes I can get inspiration even talking to someone. One sentence can trigger something, and suddenly it was just like remember that short piece of song that I sent you that when you were surprised with the audio file. Literally, I was just talking to someone, and like one sentence inspired me. So I got back home. I didn't even eat anything. I just grabbed my guitar and started writing, and that was it. It took me maybe like 10 minutes to write that and record that and send it to you. So I really go with the flow. I go with the gut. I'm trying not to put myself in too many boxes and trying to follow some artificial order. Especially that as an artist, we should be free. So why should I put additional restrictions on myself and and some chains on my creativity? If I have a period of time where I don't do anything, I'm fine with that, because I know that at some point I will pick that again.
Yeah.
Because it will, you know, what comes around bags around.
Yeah. What is? I know right now that that your focus is what's next, right? Because there's some uncertainty left here. You do have a couple creative projects that are on your calendar. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, there's another 48-hour movie.
Okay.
That is coming in July again with White Midnight Production. The other one that I have 2 weekends booked, I'm not quite sure if I can say it out loud yet. But yeah, there are another 2 weekends in July.
Of filming?
Yes.
Okay.
And from like other projects, I still have one unfinished painting. I have to finish that song at some point. And at the same time, I have more and more ideas spinning in my head on some other things that I would like to try, some other different media that I would like to play with. Yeah. Again, trying to combine different areas of art and see what happens.
Do you think, or how does your science background affect your artwork? Or maybe it doesn't. In other words, subject matter, does it creep in? Does it creep out? Do you attack it, you know, maybe new mediums in a different way based upon kind of your science background?
I'm not quite sure about using certain media, but I like to have my hands dirty. Maybe that's why I like to play with latex and blood. Okay. So maybe that's that sensoric connection with working with my bare hands, because I like to dig in dirt and mix all the media. And as well, in the horticulture, and as well, I like to do something manual when I can really feel it. Sometimes I just go with the paint straight on my fingers on the canvas and just having fun with that. And another thing is that I like to put some, plant motifs in my art, just like the painting that is hanging right now at Tony's and Jamie.
Yeah.
So it was combining the plant that was in a first, in the front, and that geometric background where I was just playing loosely.
What are some things that you would, and we're kind of coming to the end of our hike. We're going to go ahead and open up and take a look at some of your work. We're going to take a look at that giveaway. We're going to go ahead and pick the winner from Craig's giveaway.
Yeah, I think my name is there as well.
Yeah, your name is there too. So anybody who shares, your name goes in that drawing. And if you share this video too, your name will be put in that drawing to win some work from Mags as well. What type of, I mean, you have gone through a lot of, you've pushed through barriers, you packed everything in 2 bags, you traveled to a different country. What is some advice that you would give folks? And this is just a general question. I mean, to say, okay, so you're going to encounter, something in your life.
No, but the truth is that no matter where you are, you won't avoid regular life problems. Being alone in a foreign country, of course, slightly exaggerates it when you're left alone with everything, when all your family and friends are on another continent, and it's not that you can jump in the car and be back with them in 2 hours. So it's more of that mental toll that it takes before you really, sink into new reality and you build the new life. That I'm really grateful for, right now, and having so many wonderful friends, including you, and getting so much support when it's really needed. But my main advice, probably first, be aware that it's not gonna be easy. Second, set the goal, but don't try to run to it. Enjoy the journey, because it can reroute you, and you can end up in even better place than you primarily thought of. And third thing, just find your real voice and stick to it. Don't let external circumstances or other people tell you what you can or can't do. So it's really about looking at life through a lens of common sense and knowing what you really want, where you want to go, and adapt and adjust as you go.
And sometimes a knee injury, even a repetitive knee injury over years.
Right. I think that's the perfect story. How something it was hard to go through that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the story that even something what is bad can be turned into something good in the long term, because you never know where you will end up in a day, in a month, in a year.
Yeah, yeah. What are some things that that are on the horizon? In other words, I don't want to call bucket list, right? I mean, guys my age, we sometimes think of bucket list, just going, hey, I want to do this and this and this. What are some things that, you'd be like, listen, there's a couple things that I would really, that I have a vision for. But what are some of those things that that you'd like to do that, I mean, perhaps we've got folks in our community that might go, I need, an effects artist to join us, or what are some of those things?
I do not have really too big of expectations.
Yeah.
for sure, I would love to be involved in more projects and collaboration, and just be able to grow as an artist in every possible area that I work with, as well as moving to more areas of art and trying new things. I think I got to the point in my life where all I really want is to have a stable life, my tribe around me, and being in a good enough health to pursue my dreams. Just simple life, the very basics, and taking with open arms all the possibilities that life puts on my way.
Yeah. It sounds as though kind of that one step at a time, you were forced to embrace that.
Yeah, of course,
reality, right?
there are some like long-term goals. For example, I would love to buy a house at a certain point that I can call my own, or have more stability in relation to job, and not have to move that much just based on job opportunities. But these are like goals that I know that I will get to at some point.
Yeah.
I'm just not putting any pressure on how and when it should happen, because life is unpredictable. You have a plan, and next day life shows you a middle finger, and you have to completely rewrite the script that you have written for yourself for the future.
That is a good way to look at it. If you guys are joining us, right, and you've watched part 1 and part 2, we are in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and this is the first time we even posed the idea of taking a hike and interviewing on the move, as opposed to sitting in chairs and interviewing.
Yeah, which is kind of exhausting.
So it's like 90 degrees out here. Like, I don't know who came up with this idea. I know it was me, but I wasn't expecting it to be so humid. But the story that you've shared is, I think it's an important one to know, and that is, even at your earlier years, right? You were just out of university. You took the leap of faith to travel to America, to take a job, to pay for your own ticket, to fly to Chicago on your own ticket, to go to Akron, and to just jump into the great unknown for the sake of growth. And that's something that I think we can all learn from. What's as we are less
Almost
than 100
there.
yards, yeah. So we're going to be taking a look at a few things here. Did Light Feather, was that an inspiration behind your epoxy painting here?
Maybe
Consciously?
on the conscious level, no.
Okay.
It was more, before I went to the classes, I started thinking, because there were my second classes with epoxy. First time I played with alcohol inks and trying to paint with them, like with regular paint.
Gotcha.
And I thought, okay, what can I do this time, and what equipment I can use to play more with the medium that was completely new to me. So I brought from home the airbrush, and I used the airbrush to move the resin on the canvas. So it started shaping in like a feather. So I'm just like, okay, I'll go with that. And that was really just the process, not even a basic thought of what I'm gonna do there.
Yeah.
It was just maybe there, like on unconscious level, it was somewhere there. But really, when I saw that first shape, I was just like, okay, I'll go with that, and let's see what happens.
That epoxy class was with Brandon,
Yes.
who's Brandon's been putting on epoxy classes for quite some time.
Yep, and we worked also together on last movie set.
On some movies too.
Yes.
This is just my observation, but I would say that there's probably some of that scientific background, right, Mags? That to say, okay, well, I'm going to take this medium, and maybe nobody else has pushed it around with an airbrush or mixed these things. That might be a kind of that scientific
I
fusion
think
that we talked
yes,
about, right?
I think there might be a lot of truth in that. Especially the truth is that since I started, I don't think that I had a single research studies that went as planned. So all the time it's adjusting, changing something, and similar is with working with this new media, just playing with that and see what the result is. If it's not the way I wanted it, then I think I have to change ingredients. And similar with science, if something is not working, then changing the factor and seeing where it takes you.
Where it takes you. For those of you who have been anxiously waiting, we're going to start off by giving away, this is a signed copy of Craig's book. And because I've got something here for you, I'm going to leave with you, but I'll remove it. And if you shared the video last week, then your name is in this hat. And there is a slip here that also has Mag's name on it. So maybe you'll pull yourself and
If I do, we're switching to
put it
someone
back
else.
down. All right, so the winner of Craig's signed book.
Ha! Ha!
You know what? Go ahead and just show. You don't have to just. So the winner is Tony Bianco. And Tony, he talked about visualizing winning. You know, let me put that in my pocket because I'll forget about it. Tony, thank you for sharing. I think he's won 3 times over the last several months, but I'll tell you what, every single time that you share the video, it's a value to us, it's a value to the artist, and your shares is what gets their stories out, our stories out. We appreciate that. But we've got, show us the feather epoxy painting. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and definitely you can tell that I love using black in my art, especially like paintings. So this is the feather.
So this is the epoxy. You're talking about you were blowing it out with
yes,
the
from the center, blowing with the airbrush to the outside.
Mm.
And then a little bit of sprinkle with the glitter.
Yeah, really nice. Now, you never worked with epoxy prior to these classes, right?
Correct.
So you
just similar, like, you know, special effects makeup classes that we had. You had them on advanced level. I had no idea what I'm about to do, and I just jumped right in.
I'm going to hold this. So tell us about this triptych here behind us, because I've seen this piece before, because this was also shown at in a gallery.
Correct. And in fact, it's I consider it kind of commission piece, because I was inspired. I was just told, you have to bring something for that show. And I was like, I have nothing. Oh, you can paint something. I can't. I have enough time because I used to work with oils and these are acrylics. So it was first time when I worked with acrylics, first time in a very long time when I had my brush in my hand again.
Yeah.
But just the, you know, main theme, love, hate. Really, it was a moment where I sat with a cup of coffee and suddenly I had inspiration how I want to do it, showing that duality. And that's the name of this triptych.
Is duality.
Duality. So each of the parts, at least, you know, what I had in my mind, could be understood in both ways, love or hate. I don't want to say out loud what I had in my mind, but if anyone is curious, please just shoot me a message and we can compare what do you see and how do you understand the message between that love-hate theme in terms of duality of what is shown on the painting. Yeah,
I like artwork that makes me think, and hearing your story, and hearing, you know, like news about your injury, which I didn't know until today, but it's kind of like injury happens, but the future is meant to, you know, is kind of chosen for us, right? And you know, if you wait it out, because this feels positive to me, certainly. But I thank you so much for challenging us, you know, to think about your work differently.
Yeah, please just leave it, or even leave a comment under this video and share your thoughts.
Give us some. Tell us a little bit about the crocheting, because I think that's an important piece. Actually, my my stepdaughter Rowan does a lot of crocheting, and she I think, like you, she finds busy hands.
Yeah, just that repetitive movement. I think it really puts our brain in that rhythm and helps us lower the blood pressure, slow down the thoughts. So it has this kind of therapeutic effect.
And there's also a giveaway that
Yes.
we're going to see here at some point. Okay.
Yes,
All
but
right.
at first
you cue us. Yes.
Yes, so at first we're going to start with the bigger pieces.
Yeah.
Which I do mainly as commissions because they take a lot of time. These are just the sets, winter sets.
Yeah.
So the headband and the caul, or whatever you pronounce that.
Yeah. You shared with us that your grandmother crocheted, right? And then kind of inspired
Correct.
you.
In fact, both grandmothers and even one of my grandfathers as well.
Okay.
These are baby blankets. They take forever, so these are really only as commissions. I have samples of different designs, and then I just go with full size. So these are
How long would a? I mean,
yeah, this is like 24 by 36. It differs by a few hours depending on the design because you can tell that they are very different.
Yeah.
But usually it's 30 plus hours to make a baby blanket that size.
Blanket, yeah.
Lately, I also started working with micro crochet, but before we go to that, and this very thin yarn,
Yeah.
these two blankets were done using the blankets were done using Tunisian crochet. This was done using regular crochet hook. So the difference is that when I work on this, I have only one loop open.
Okay.
And I work in empty spaces between, and I always have one main loop, sometimes 2 or 3, depending on the design when you want to expand it.
Yeah.
But in general, everything here is a smooth surface. So this is how this design was done. Here is Tunisian crochet, which is something between crochet and knitting. And as you can see, this is similar design to this one. So I have the loops on the hook and I work backwards. Of course, my hands are sticky from the sweat, but you just work backwards. Now I'm not gonna do it.
So I would say that process, as you said, keep your hands busy, is probably hypnotizing. Is it? I mean,
it's just like a kind of trance. At some point, when I know how to do the design, I just sit, watch a TV, and I just work. So this is the standard size, right? I have some more sizes over here, but here I have some bookmarks. But before I show them, this is the difference between hooks, and definitely I would recommend coming closer and zooming in. So this is regular crochet that I use for bigger projects, and this is the size of the hook that I use for micro crochet. So it's going into millimeters and parts of millimeters.
Really? So that's this. Is that thread?
Yes,
is that the correct?
It's like very thin yarn. It's Egyptian cotton yarn. So this is the size in compare to this one, right? So the thickness.
Oh yeah.
That's the difference in the thickness.
So your creations on that micro, I mean, that's a lot of movement for a little bit of.
Yeah, and here I have several designs of bookmarks that I played with so far. So for example, something similar to like peacock feathers or flowers. Of course, I wouldn't be myself if I wouldn't make flowers, right? As horticulturist with tiny leaf at the bottom, or shamrock, different shades.
I love it.
So
how long does it take for one bookmark?
That depends on the design. Here are some more
more complex
lace-ish designs. That depends really on the design again, but usually it's around 40 minutes, maybe 1 hour per one piece. So these were probably closer to 1 hour because I had to change the color.
Yeah.
And now we're slowly getting to our giveaway, but at first I will show something that I was updating you as I started working on greeting cards. Remember?
Oh,
the
I do
crochet
remember
ones?
that. Yeah.
So these are some of the designs
I love it.
that I did, and again with this type of greeting cards, again mainly having them for as commissions, and really if anyone has an idea, I can make it work one way or another.
Yeah.
Okay, so please take this one from the cellophane if you could.
Oh, gotcha.
Just
Absolutely.
don't open it yet.
All right.
And I will open another one just to show how they are done, because it was quite a journey. I really haven't seen crochet cards anywhere, and at some point, again, I decided to see how far I can take
Well,
that medium.
Is really beautiful.
Yeah, so the thing is that at first I had to punch all the holes by hand, measuring first and then punching holes, then working the edge, and of course working on the design that later I put on the card.
Yeah.
But this is how the inside looks. Yeah, just wait a moment.
Okay, I'm waiting.
Just wait a moment. So this is, at first I thought it's okay visually. It's also nice to connect the edges instead of having to figure it out how to connect it at the very end over here.
Yeah.
But I came up with another purpose for this part. So now please open yours.
Yeah.
Read what it's written and how it shows.
So you have it tucked behind here. Just in case no one told you yet today, I love you, I believe in you, and I believe in your ability to change your life for the better. Mags.
This quote isn't mine. It's from Mel Robbins, and I know that Kelly knows her podcast as well.
Yeah.
So another message to whoever gets this giveaway. So many greeting cards end up in closets or in the trash.
Yeah.
With these cards, I would like to see them on a move. So to whoever gets this one, please, when you are ready to let it go, change the note. Just slide it behind this, change the note, and pass it to someone who needs it.
Yeah.
Pass it to someone who you want to tell that you love them, that you're appreciate they are in your life, that you are there for them. Just share that love.
And keep pushing it forward.
As long as it still looks good.
Well, thank you, Mags, for sharing your story. There's a lot of information. I know we just scratched the surface. Guys, we thank you for joining us today. There's 2 parts. If you share either of these parts, your name will be put in the giveaway for this this card. We're going to draw this card next week. We're meeting with, I'm not going to announce that artist yet, really well-known artist. And so we'll draw your name next week. We appreciate you guys joining us today. And thank you, Mags.
Thank you for having me here.